Welcome back, champions. Welcome back to Nation of Glory. Today, we step into the life of a man who turned passion into legacy, pain into purpose, and dreams into destiny. A man who never stopped fighting, never stopped evolving, and never stopped believing. He's not just a wrestler. Not just a rockstar. Not just an entertainer. He's a phenomenon, a living, breathing symbol of reinvention. He is Christopher Keith Irvine, better known to the world as Chris Jericho. Now, before we dive deep, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this story with every fan who believes in never giving up, because what you're about to hear isn't just about wrestling. It's about life itself. Let's rewind the clock to a young boy growing up in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. The year was 1970. Chris wasn't born into fame, fortune, or a family of wrestling royalty. His father, Ted Irvine, was a professional hockey player, a tough man, strong, disciplined, who taught his son early what it meant to work hard for what you love. But little Chris, he wasn't meant to chase a puck. He wanted the roar of the crowd, the glimmer of the lights, and the stage of warriors, the wrestling ring. Picture this: a teenage Jericho, sitting in front of the TV, eyes locked on larger-than-life heroes like Shawn Michaels, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and Owen Hart. The fire in his heart, already burning. He didn't see just performers. He saw storytellers, men who could make you cry, laugh, and cheer in one night. And in that moment, Chris made a promise to himself: I'll stand in that ring one day. And when I do, they'll remember my name. But the road to that dream wasn't a highway. It was a dirt path full of bumps, pain, and sacrifice. He trained at the legendary Hart Brothers School of Wrestling in an old, cold gym, with no glamour, no fame, just sweat and bruises. Day after day, Jericho learned not just moves but mindset. How to take pain and turn it into fuel. How to lose today and still smile for tomorrow. That's where Chris Irvine started becoming Chris Jericho. His debut came in 1990, and from that moment, the wrestling world would never be the same. From Canada to Japan, from Mexico to Germany, Jericho took his skills across the world. He wrestled in smoky arenas, small crowds, and sometimes no spotlight at all, but he gave everything he had. Every drop of sweat. Every ounce of energy. Because he knew that every match was another step toward greatness. And then, finally, the world began to notice. He became known as Lionheart, Chris Jericho, a nickname that wasn't just cool, it was prophetic. Because inside that ring, he fought like a lion. Fierce. Proud. Unbreakable. His time in ECW and then WCW showed glimpses of what was coming. A man who could talk, entertain, and wrestle with pure magic. While others were trying to look tough, Jericho was trying to be unforgettable. And he succeeded. But it wasn't until he stepped foot in WWE that the legend was truly born. It was 1999. The countdown appeared on the Titantron, the Millennium Clock. Fans didn't know what it meant. They waited. They wondered. And then the lights went out. The crowd erupted as the screen flashed the words that would shake the wrestling world: Y2J. When Chris Jericho walked out on that stage, the world changed. That debut wasn't just an entrance, it was an event. He interrupted The Rock, one of the biggest stars in history, and he didn't back down for a second. That's who Jericho was: fearless, charismatic, sharp with his words, sharper with his mind. And from that moment on, Chris Jericho became one of the greatest entertainers in WWE history. He wasn't the biggest. He wasn't the strongest. But he was the most versatile, the most creative, and the most determined. He reinvented himself over and over again. From Y2J to the Ayatollah of rock and roll. From the arrogant heel to the fan-favorite underdog. He became the man who could make you love him one week and hate him the next, all with a single line on the microphone. And then came the moment that cemented his name in history. December 9, 2001, Vengeance. Chris Jericho defeated The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin in the same night to become the first ever undisputed champion in WWE history. Think about that. Two of the greatest legends ever, and Jericho beat them both. That wasn't luck. That was destiny earned through years of blood, sweat, and persistence. But here's the thing about Chris Jericho: he never let success make him comfortable. He knew that true greatness means evolution. So while others stayed the same, Jericho kept changing. He kept surprising the world. When he returned in 2007 with his Save Us campaign, the fans lost their minds. When he transformed into the cold, suit-wearing villain who called everyone hypocrites, people hated him, but they couldn't look away. He could control the crowd like a symphony. Every cheer, every boo, he conducted it with precision. But behind that performer was still the kid from Winnipeg, who never forgot why he started. And while the world saw him as a wrestling legend, Jericho was ready to conquer something else: music. Enter Fozzy. A rock band that began as a side project soon turned into a full-blown passion. Jericho wasn't content to be just a wrestler who sang. He wanted to be a rock star who could own the stage. And he did. Albums like Judas didn't just succeed, they became anthems. The song Judas became more than music. It became part of his identity, his entrance theme, and a message to the world that Jericho could do anything he set his mind to. But life isn't just victories. It's also about surviving storms. Jericho faced criticism, doubts, injuries, even ridicule from people who said he was too old, too theatrical, too past his prime. But every time they wrote him off, he came back stronger. Because Chris Jericho doesn't chase relevance. He creates it. And that's what made his next move so monumental. In 2019, when he signed with All Elite Wrestling AU, the world gasped. People thought his best years were behind him. But Jericho had other plans. He became the face of a new era, the first AU world champion. The man who helped bring credibility to a brand new wrestling company. And not just as a performer, but as a leader. He guided young talents, mentored them, and showed them that charisma, discipline, and storytelling are just as important as strength and speed. He gave AU its identity, Le Champion. And that phrase? It became iconic. Jericho made everything he touched golden. His promos, his catchphrases, his feuds all turned to fire. He was not just a wrestler. He was a movement. And yet, through it all, he remained humble in his own way. Behind the bravado, the jokes, the arrogance was a man who loved entertaining. Who loved making people feel something. And that's the secret of Chris Jericho. He doesn't just perform. He connects. His story isn't about fame. It's about evolution. He's been the villain, the hero, the rockstar, the legend. And he's still here, decades later, proving that passion doesn't age, and greatness doesn't fade. From winning titles across the globe to touring stages filled with screaming fans, Jericho has lived multiple lives, and yet he still gives everything, every single night. He's the walking definition of never stop. Because for him, glory isn't a destination. It's a journey. Think about it. How many people can say they've been at the top of two completely different industries, wrestling and music, and still inspire millions every day? Chris Jericho can. And he's still writing his story. He's the man who teaches us that reinvention is power. That you can start over at any age, chase new dreams, and build new empires. He teaches us that failure isn't the end, it's the beginning of something better. That charisma isn't just talent, it's authenticity. And that every time life knocks you down, you can rise again, and again, and again. Chris Jericho's life is a reminder that true champions don't retire, they evolve. Whether he's in the ring, on stage with Fozzy, or hosting his hit podcast Talk is Jericho, he's always delivering one message. Be bold. Be brave. Be yourself. And never ever stop believing in your worth. So next time you see him perform, whether it's under the spotlight of AU or the glow of a rock concert, remember, you're not just watching a man who entertains. You're watching a man who became his own story. From Winnipeg to the world. From dreamer to icon. From Chris Irvine to Chris Jericho, the man of 1,000 lives. And that nation of glory is why his story isn't just about wrestling. It's about the human spirit. It's about passion that refuses to die. It's about a man who reminds us that no matter where you come from, you can reach anywhere if your heart burns bright enough. So here's to the Lionheart. Here's to the Ayatollah of rock and rolla. Here's to the first ever AU world champion. Here's to the legend who keeps proving that the best is always yet to come. Thank you for joining us today on Nation of Glory. If this story inspired you, and I know it did, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with your friends, because stories like this deserve to be heard. And remember, greatness isn't given. It's earned. So go out there, chase your dream, and write your own story of glory. Until next time, this is Nation of Glory, signing off. Stay strong, stay proud, and never, ever give up.